Good morning, I'm Brad Phillips. I'm here with Puppy Steps Training, and today we have Lila here with us. We're going to be doing her demonstration. Very excited to send her home. I think she's just she's a doll. I think your kids are going to love her for Christmas. It'll be so much fun. Please, if you can, record it and send us a copy. We would love to see that, as well as we'd like to see updates of all of our puppies. So, before we get started, a couple things that I'm going to run through, and then we'll get her out and we'll go through the whole program. Hopefully you've read the manual and went through a lot of that online training information. That stuff's going to help you be consistent, as well as help with the transition into your home. As well as that goes into a little bit more detail on everything we're going to cover. There will be a few things that I will cover a little bit more in detail, just some of those things that require some extra attention during the transition. So first thing we're going to talk about is just that first, she is a puppy, and so she is really young. There is going to be some growing and some maturing, and so it is so important that you're patient as well as you are consistent. It's also important you always end on a correct behavior. Even if she seems to be really struggling with something, even if you do just a really short, kind of the minimum of that behavior, as long as you end with a correct behavior, that goes a long way. So first off, it's important that you remember the word okay. Okay is our marker and our release word. Marks the correct behavior, releases from a stay. So she has associated that word, that every time it's used, some type of reward is coming, and that she did whatever you asked correctly. It's also important that you remember no or nope. Those are our correction terms, and so if she does something wrong, I will use those. Depending on the behavior, basically determines how serious the correction is going to be. If she does something simple like she breaks a stay, I will tell her no, and I will have her do it again. And I might just shorten that stay, ease the distractions, things like that. Now, if she did something more serious, she tried to steal food out of my hand, she jumped up, I am going to be a little bit more firm when I present the no. And I do that by adjusting my voice fluctuation and my body language. And so those two factors are what a dog reads the most. And now she is pretty sensitive to correction, just so you know. And so definitely if you correct her, sometimes she will be a little bit shy about doing the next command. So just so you're aware of that. So now we're going to talk just briefly about socialization there before we get her out. Now, socialization is the most important thing to me. That's the most important thing you can do with any puppy. And so during the first 2 weeks that we had her, that's what we focused on. We made sure to get her around new people, new places, animals, sounds, kids, just as many new and uncomfortable situations as we possibly could. But when we do that, we do it in a controlled environment. That way, if she does seem a little bit nervous, we can back off whatever's making her uncomfortable and make sure that she has a positive outcome. And that way, we prevent against having severe anxiety or aggression or timidness. And so she has done really well with that. She's just a really fun, loving dog, and like I said, she's just done really well. But with that socialization, we also throw it in why we're doing different commands, and kind of throughout the whole program, making sure that we add new distractions, just kind of keeping things new and exciting for her. You're also going to do some of this when you introduce her into your home, because it's going to be a new environment, and she's also, you're new to her as well. And so it'll be important that if she is uncomfortable, you can see that she's a little bit stressed out or nervous, that you can ease what's going on around her and make sure that she's comfortable and that she's not getting overly stimulated. So now we'll jump right into her manners. And the first one we're going to talk about is her gates and her doorways. So when I let her out of the crate, she is expected to stay until released, and that release word is okay. Now, if she were to break, I might simply close the door. I might block her with my leg. It wouldn't be unless she was really persistent on pushing her way out that I would actually tell her to stay. So I'll let her out now. Okay, good girl. Good girl. And I'm going to throw this leash on her. Good girl. Good girl. And I will also show you the house door. She's expected to do the same thing, and we'll do that when we go outside. Now the next manner I'm going to be looking for, come here, is her greeting. And so anytime I call her over, before I give her any attention, I expect her to be sitting. That does a couple things for me. First, when her hind end goes down, her eyes come up, and so I get her focus and her attention. Second, it does keep her from jumping, which jumping is a behavior that all puppies struggle with, and so we like to just take care of it right off the bat. And expecting that greeting is an easy way to make sure that she's not going to jump. And so that also shows some respect for me by presenting that greeting. And so if she does hesitate, you can just ask her to sit, and which that hand signal is just a scoop over the nose, which we'll cover in detail here in just a minute. Next, I will show you her mealtime, which I'm just giving her just a little bit right now. But anytime I feed her, I do expect her to hold a sit stay. So where she's already sitting, I'll just tell her, stay. And we can add a little bit of distractions. As well as increase time. We just call it the 3Ds, distance, duration, distraction. Okay, good girl. Good girl. During her meals, I do like to spend some time around her, handling her, putting my hands near her food bowl. Occasionally, I'll just throw in a treat, make it extra special. I just want to make sure that she's comfortable with having me around while she eats. That way she doesn't develop any food aggression. I never want to hear her growl at me or nip or anything like that. Good girl. So we feed her twice a day. We feed her about 6:30 to 7 in the morning, and then as close to 6 o'clock in the evening as possible. And I give her about a cup and a half. Actually a little bit less right now. She gets closer to a cup. And you can break those feedings up. You know, work on those stays, do it 3 or 4 times, that way you're really going to increase those stays. It's also important that if, you know, during the winter, if you're not working with her as much or you feel like she's getting a little bit skinny, you can throw an extra cup in the middle of the day, just give her lunch. Good girl. But also, just kind of going along with food aggression, I want to make sure that she's not going to be aggressive at all. And so we do spend time handling her paws, her ears, her tail, just any part of the body that sometimes can be sensitive. I want to make sure that she's going to be comfortable with me handling her. And we do this throughout the day. Same thing with brushing. We'll make sure that we brush her so that she's not going to be timid or aggressive towards that. But she's done just wonderfully. She's really a sweetheart. And I've never seen her be aggressive towards anyone or any puppy. Now, the one time aggression can be mistaken is with kids. Kids are like the greatest thing to a puppy. They run around, they squeal, they're the perfect size, and your dog's just going to want to play along. And that's when an arm gets grabbed or a pant leg, and the next door neighbor thinks your dog just bit their kid. So it's important, to me at least, I put a rule, or set a rule, that anytime a child is playing with my dog, they have to have a toy. That way, if they're running, it's out to the side, give something the dog can target, as well as if they get nervous, they can throw the toy, and she's going to be directed towards the toy. Which, that didn't really show it, but she is very toy motivated. I might have wore her out. I was playing with her a bunch this morning, but she loves to play. You're supposed to bring it back, huh? Come on. Now if I can get her to pick it up, I'll show you our next manner, which is when we're playing, which is dropping it. Now, drop it is just exactly that. I'm asking her to drop whatever's in her mouth. And so maybe I'll be able to show you with this bully stick. Come here. As if she has something and I want her to give it up, I should be able just to take hold of it, and I'll just ask her, drop it. Good girl. And with something that's as highly motivating as like this bully stick, which she just loves, A lot of times it's not that she's going to spit it out onto the floor, it's just her physically releasing it and allowing me to take it. Now if she didn't want to give it up, what I would do is I would just hold it really still so that she can't pull it around, it's unappealing, and if it's long enough, I'll take it on both sides. And usually they're just going to get bored with it and they'll spit it out just like that. If she didn't, I would just turn my knuckles in and kind of pinch her lips against her canines a little bit. And if that didn't work, if she just had something that she absolutely did not want to give up, I would just sneak my thumb right in there on her tongue. So I'll go right behind those canines and push my thumb in her mouth. And if you press down on her tongue, she's going to open her mouth as wide as she can. Good girl. But expect her to give it up, whatever she has, when asked to drop it. You're just not going to play now, huh? Now, the next manner that deals with her mouth is I expect her to be very careful when she takes food. And this is one that you're going to want to make sure that you stay on top of because she is so food motivated. Come here. And this is also why when I normally do play with her, like I was this morning, I won't have any treats on me because she is so food motivated. And so what I'll do, come here, is anytime I'm going to give her a treat, I'll tell her gently, and if she were to lunge up, I just pull it back and tell her gently, and expect her to be very cautious taking it. It's also important that you give her the treat in the palm of your hand. That way I can kind of tuck it in there, I can cover it up if she is kind of being mouthy, as well as if she were to jump up. It's just a natural reaction to close your fist and pull your hand back. And on the other hand, if you were to give it between your thumb and forefinger, you're just asking her to bite your fingers. So instead I'll just tell her gently, good girl, and I expect her to be very careful. If she does seem to be really rambunctious, she's running around kind of crazy, I would make sure you have her sit and ask her gently before you give her any food. So, with that, the next two manners are ones that are going to be very important as you transition her into your home. The first one is chewing. So she will be teething here in the next little while, and so chewing is so important. It's a behavior that you can't get away from, but she just has to do it. And so, in order to make sure that no disasters happen, we train on a base of avoiding and replacing. If you can avoid giving her free access to toys, to shoes, to pillows, whatever it is, of course that's the best way to prevent an accident from happening. However, it's not really possible in your home. There's always going to be something that she has access to. And so that's where replacing comes in. So if I saw her go up and she started chewing on, like if you have a soft bed or a pillow, something along that kind of same texture, I would match it. I would give her something soft, something that she can chew on, because she's going to be chewing based on the need that she feels her mouth needs, if that makes any sense, the way that I said it. So if she's chewing on something soft, give her something soft. If she's chewing on something hard, like a table leg, give her something like this bully stick. If she wants to chew on a leash or shoelaces, give her something similar to a rope or like that canvas. Just try and match whatever she needs. And that way, you're teaching her what's hers and what's yours. So boredom is the number one cause of chewing. And that can be whether she's bored with her own things, or that can be that she doesn't have anything to do and she gets bored. And so that's why, if, like this, I'm playing with her with this toy, if she were to get up and walk away, I'd immediately take it away. She doesn't get free access to her own things. That way she's not going to get bored with them. As well as, if you guys have a downtime and she's going to be bored, maybe just laying on her bed, I would just give her something to chew on. That way, she's not going to go and find something she's not supposed to. Drop it. Good girl, good girl. See, that's how I want her to drop it, just to physically release it. And that brings up a good point with these toys, these plush toys. Make sure that you never yank it away from her, because it's so easy for those little baby teeth to get caught. So instead, I'll just take it and I'll ask her, drop it. Drop it. Oh. Good girl. Good girl. Now when I am working on drop it, a lot of times if I have a toy, the reward is just going to be me throwing it again. Drop it. Good girl. Good girl. As well, and this goes with any command, I'm not going to repeat myself. Instead, I'm just going to ask her to drop it, I'm going to hold it real tight. And just like that, it took her a second, but she eventually just completely let go. And that's what I'm looking for. And with any of the other commands, if I ask her to do it and she doesn't, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to let her process it. I'm not going to repeatedly ask her. If she were then to get up and completely walk away, then I might adjust my body language and ask her to do it again. So, the final manner is jumping. Come here. And so jumping, like I said earlier, is one of those behaviors that all puppies really struggle with. And so it's important to always correct that. And so our command is off. When I tell her off, I expect her to get down. And that's whether she tried to jump up on a person or like a couch. It's also important, especially for your kids, if she is running up, she's super excited, you never want to step backwards. As soon as you step backwards, you're encouraging her to jump. It becomes a game. And so instead, you're going to want to step into her. That way you're encroaching on her space. A lot of times it's going to throw off her timing, and so she won't jump anyway. But if she does jump, she's going to be straight up, and I'm going to bring my knee and block her. This is also one time, if I had her on a leash and she was trying to jump up on someone, I would use a leash correction, which a leash correction is just 2 pops on the leash. You're not trying to yank her backwards or yank her down. You're just giving her 2 quick pops and accompanying that with no or off. Now, she has done really well, but it is important that you maintain that. Always tell her off, always make sure that she sits for a greeting, as well as if she is going to get a treat, come here. It's important that she never rears up. If she were to rear up, I'd tell her no, and then ask her to be gentle. So that's it for our manners. If you do have any questions with any of those, please don't hesitate to reach out. Whether it's a call or a text or an email, just let me know if you have any questions. But we are going to move into our commands now. We'll show you come and watch me, and then sit, down, sit, stay, down, stay, crate, go to bed, and leave it. So the first one, or the first 2 I should say, we teach from day 1, just immediately right off the bat. And so the very first one is just to get her focus and her eye contact. If I can get her to look away. Watch me. Okay, good girl. All I'm looking for is that eye contact. It's very simple, but that's a huge command, just in a way that once you get that eye contact, you have her focus. Dogs really can't be looking at one thing and focused on another. They just have that single track mind. So if you get their eye contact and that focus, you know that you have their attention. And so we'll throw that in just randomly. Like I said, if we can get her to look away. Even you can take the treat and lure her eyes over here and then watch me. Okay, good girl. And it's just that quick eye movement, making eye contact with me. And I'll probably throw that in just randomly while we're doing some other things, just to really show you how she'll turn around and look. It's also important that you keep that command super positive. Every time you ask her, give her a food reward, because food is such a high value, especially to her. And that way, that command basically becomes a backup to come. If come ever were to fail in a really important situation, if you've really kept that watch me command super positive, she's just going to whip around and look at you, and it could save her life, or it could just save you something that you dropped on the floor that you don't want her to get while you're cooking. We also use her name the same way, just expecting her to look up. And I will also use her name every time I call her to come, just for the fact of getting her to look at me. And it is hard to show in here, we don't have a ton of space, but we have worked a lot on her come. To me, that is the most important command. Lila, come! Good girl. And of course, all I'm looking for is her to come to me. I'm not going to wait for her to sit or anything. I'm just going to immediately reward the behavior. Now, that is another one of those commands that you just want to keep super, super positive. It is so important that you never correct or punish your dog if they don't immediately come. Because if it takes them a minute and you've asked them to come and they then come running up to you all happy and you punish them, you will just completely annihilate that command. It'll get to the point where she will turn and run instead of coming back to you. And so it's also important that if she's already struggling a little bit with it at some point, and then you think she's going to fail, just don't use the command. Use something different or go up and just hook a leash on it. But we have spent a lot of time making sure that command is wonderful. And so just make sure that you use caution with it. Like I said, it is your most important command. Lila, come! Good girl, good girl. Now the other reasons that it gets, it kind of dies, is overuse. That's a big reason. You're in the house, she's only like 3 or 4 feet away, and you tell her to come, and then you ask her to come again, and it's just, you overuse it in the wrong situations. And so instead, if you were in the house, I would just, come here, clap, something like that to get her attention, and get her to walk over. And that way you're not using that command too much. But I would also make sure that you practice that command a lot. Use it in an environment where she can't fail, and so for the first little while, keep her on a leash, let her run around, ask her to come to you. If she doesn't immediately come, you can give her just 2 quick pops on the leash and kind of reel her in, making sure that she's always going to respond. Which you shouldn't have to reel her in. Most of the time she'll just turn around and come running just because we've kept that so positive. The other way to work on it is, you got a fenced in backyard, let her go out there and just completely run around. She's having a ball. Take a big bag of treats, and every minute or two, call her to come, give her a treat, let her go again. So it's very positive. She's coming back, she's getting a reward, and then she's being able to play again. Do that, 9, 10 times. For that one time, you call her to come and you go inside, or she has to go in the crate. So the next 3 commands do have hand signals, and so the sit, of course, is just that scoop over the nose. If it helps you remember, when we first got her, we'd take her food bowl, lure her nose up, tell her hind end went down, and then we would mark it. Down, I'll just take my hand and take her down, and then stay is a stop sign. Now we do have 2 stays. We have a sit stay and a down stay. If I put her in a sit stay, I can just tell her, stay. I don't care if she lays down, but she can never break. And on the other hand, if she was in a down stay, she's never allowed to come up. Same thing as if she's in that sit stay and she lays down, she's not allowed to come back up. Okay, good girl, good girl, good girl. Now, before I do this downstay, I'll tell you just a funny quirk that she has. She loves to play in the snow, but she hates the cold ground. Like, she hates the cold pavement and she hates the cold hardwood floor. And so, if you're practicing downs and it's really cold, if you see her shivering, just don't do it on that cold surface, because she just doesn't want to lay down. It's really funny because, like I said, she loves to play in the snow, but as soon as you ask her to do something on the cold ground, she's like, oh, no way, I don't want to lay down on that. So that's why I'm going to bring her up here onto the bed, but I'll ask her to sit, and then I'll take her down, and I'll ask her to stay. Okay, good girl, good girl. Now, she is a puppy, and so that's why right now we are learning her all the way down with that hand. You can eventually start not going all the way down and getting her to lay down. Anyway, the important part is that you're basically using a lure. She's going to follow your hand, and I like to tuck the treat between my thumb and my palm. And there's 2 ways that you can do that. So regardless, we're going down. You can just bring that right past her nose, or a lot of times I like to stick her nose right in the palm of my hand and take her straight down. Just a couple little tips there. Good girl, good girl. So, she has great stays, but don't be satisfied with them. Always strive to build those up. Right now it's super cute because she's so tiny and she's so cute and she's doing these 20-second stays, but always strive to be improving that. Now the next two commands don't necessarily have a hand signal, but I always put myself in a position where she can read my body language. And so whether that's standing next to it, but for instance the crate, crate, I'll stand next to it, I'll point. If she were to hesitate, I might tap the top, something like that. It is important when I put her in there, she is expected to stay until released. Okay, good girl. Good girl. And being released is a reward in itself. That's why I do give her the treat when she goes in. Now the crate command is very similar to the come command in the fashion that you don't want to just use it when she's going to bed. If you're going to lock her up, I would do it 3 or 4 times, having her run it in and out. Crate. Just so she doesn't decide that she doesn't like to go in the crate anymore. Okay, as well as I like to just use it randomly throughout the day. If I'm near the crate, have her run in and out a couple times, make it a game. Otherwise, really every time that if you just use it to put her up for the night, or if you're leaving, she will associate that. And so she'll start to realize, hey, they're only locking me up. Or they only ask me to do that command if they're locking me up. And so then instead, she'll turn and run away. So keep it positive, keep it different. Switch it up every once in a while. So very similar to that would be our next command, which I'll just tell her, go to bed. I'll just point. I expect her to have all 4 paws on the bed, as well as if I put her on the bed like that, she is expected to stay as well. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, good girl. Good girl. Now the last one, when you're practicing, I like to have a hold of the leash. And so what I'll do is, she's kind of guessing what we're doing. This command is really for when you're on a walk and she finds something on the side of the road you don't want her to pick up. Maybe it's roadkill, whatever it is, you should be able to ask her to leave it, and she should pick up her head and leave it alone. So maybe we'll throw a treat right here. Leave it. Come here. Good girl. And she should just walk away from it. Good girl. Leave it. Come here. Good girl. See that? How she just walks away from it? Good girl. Good girl. Okay. Okay. And that way she's not picking up things that you don't want her to. So that concludes our commands. Now we will talk about her crate training and her house training. Then we'll do her leash training and we'll actually go outside for that. So, first things first, the crate. The crate, we have spent a ton of time making sure that she is going to be good in there, not have accidents, and not just bark the whole time. And so, right now, she has been sleeping through the night, which is awesome. We put her to bed about 10 o'clock in the evening and get her out around 6. As well as she will sleep for up to 3 to 4 hour blocks during the day. Now, with that being said, the transition, so these next 2 to 4 weeks, often cause a dog to have to go to the bathroom more frequently. Sometimes they get a loose stool. And so it is important that over the next couple days that you do listen for her. If she starts to whine in the crate after being in there for a couple hours, just let her out, give her a break, put her right back in. If she is whining in the crate, don't let her out to play or anything like that, just to go to the bathroom. Even though she will whine and let you know when she needs to go, it's not a bad idea these first couple nights to give her a break halfway through the night, just to prevent any accident from happening. Now, if you put her in there, say the first time you put her in there, Sunday night or Saturday night, and she immediately starts to whine, I wouldn't let her out. You're just going to have to ignore it. She's just not wanting to go in there because maybe she's having so much fun with your kids or being part of your family. And so instead, I would give her something like a bully stick or a marrow bone, as well as I would throw a blanket over the door just so she can't see out. It makes it a little bit darker, just helps her relax. Now, I would also use the crate as an asset. It's somewhere you can put her to maybe give yourself a break, Or if you need to run errands, you can put her in there. And same thing with the house training. You can't pay attention to her at that moment, put her in the crate. She should do just fine. Nope. Good girl. Good girl. So next thing, we will do the house training. And so I'm going to show you how I transition the bell. And I am going to pull the rest of the bells off, because I'll warn you, the reason I do it this way is because I want as many repetitions as possible. The more repetitions you can get in the short amount of time, the better. That way you're staying ahead of her pee schedule. Most likely she won't ever just have the opportunity to have an accident in your house. As well as she is learning very quickly in your home, which is a new environment for her, where the bell's at, that it means the same thing here, and where the bathroom spot is. And so I kind of think of it as the next 2 weeks are a little bit inconvenient for a completely house-trained dog. I have people that, if they follow these instructions, you'll never have an accident in your house. But it's important that you follow them to the T. Otherwise, you are battling a little bit if you give her the opportunity to have an accident in your house. So, first things first, we'll talk about some of the signs. So if you see her and she starts sniffing really heavily, chances are she has to go to the bathroom. Or if she starts doing circles, she has to go to the bathroom. Also, anytime she wakes up, if she's been sleeping for longer than 30 minutes to an hour, she's probably going to have to go to the bathroom. And so during those times, I would get her over, have her ring the bell, go outside. The other thing is within about an hour after eating or drinking, she's probably going to have to go to the bathroom. So I would also make sure that you limit her water. So I give it to her when she eats, and then maybe 4 times throughout the day. I make sure that the water is taken away by 7 o'clock in the evening, as well as she should be done eating shortly or right around 6. That way she has 4 hours to clear her system of any food, 3 hours to clear her system of any liquids. That's going to save you, so she's not having to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. As well as, like I said, this transition, she's going to have to go to the bathroom more frequently anyway. You might as well not make it worse by having her load up on water. It's also not a bad idea to block off part of your house. I really like baby gates when I'm introducing a new puppy into my home. That way she's not being able to sneak off and find a corner somewhere. The other thing is, the most important thing I can tell you to help you with this transition is 100% supervision. That just has to happen. 100%. If you cannot give her that supervision, put her in the crate. And it's important that that supervision is done by an adult. And little kids, they just can't give them the supervision they need. Now, one last thing, just with that supervision. If she is unsupervised and she has an accident, there's nothing you can do about it. If you didn't witness it, you can't correct. She's not going to know what's going on. So, if you were watching over her and you witness her try and squat, she starts to pee, you want to make a negative association. And so I'll clap, I'll stomp, no, and I'll just run her outside. And you want to make it as black as white as possible. And so you made that negative association because she started to pee on the floor. If you get her outside and she finishes out there, give her a reward, make it positive, even though that might be difficult because she just peed on the floor. That's really kind of spelling it out. You can't pee here, but you can pee there. So, with that being said, now I will show you how to transition the bell. So the first thing that I like to do is just have her target it. And so I'm going to take some treats, I'm going to make sure that they're nice and small. And all I'm looking for right here is her ringing the bell. And I'm just going to mark it with the word OK at this point. And so I'm just going to hang it right here. And every time she touches it, OK, I'm going to mark it. Now, that one, of course, these bells don't ring very well anyway, but that one was pretty soft, and so the next one I want harder. And so if she barely touches it, I'll just ignore it. OK. And wait till she hits it just a little bit harder, or like that, she kind of hit it twice in a row. OK. But I'm just going to mark that. Okay, just like that, how she sniffed it the first time. I just ignored that and waited, okay, waited for her to actually touch it. If it takes a minute for her to touch the bell, that's absolutely okay. It's just her processing it. During this time, would also not be a bad idea to throw in like some hot dogs or even some leftover ham or something like that, just making it extremely positive for her touching the bell. So once she's ringing it here, then I'm going to move over to the door. Come here. And I'm just going to stare at the bells. Okay, good girl. Mark it every time she touches it. Okay, good girl. And now, okay, good girl. Where she's hitting it on the door, I'm going to change my wording up just a little bit. Okay, outside. Start emphasizing the word outside. Okay, outside. Good girl, good girl. Now this time I'm going to take her out. Okay, outside. Good girl. Expecting her to wait at the doorway. Okay. Same thing coming in, expecting her to wait at the door. Okay. Good girl. Now, if I was at your house, I would immediately have her turn around, ring the bell a couple times again, go back outside. Do that 3 or 4 times, getting those repetitions of going out to the area that you want her to eliminate. Now, the first time that she goes, make it super positive when she's out there. Get outside, good girl, good girl. Pet her, give her treats, just make it so that's the most positive thing ever. And then come back in. If she doesn't go, there's no reward, there's no emotion. I'm not going to make eye contact with her. We're just going to come right back in. And I would, the first handful of times that she goes, I just make it super positive and rewarding. But anyhow, once you did that little exercise, you go outside 4 or 5 times. At that moment, I would set a timer for 30 minutes. And at least do a full day, if not 2, at 30 minutes. Like I said, it's a little bit of an inconvenience, but that way you're completely ahead of her schedule. She's not going to go every time, but when that 30-minute timer goes off, walk over, have her ring the bell, go outside, give her the opportunity to go to the bathroom. I'll give her maybe a minute or 2. I'm going to keep her moving around and having her sniff. When she goes, good outside, good girl. She doesn't just come back in, reset your timer. The exception to that is if she's in the crate. You don't need to pull her out every 30 minutes. Like I said, she's fine in there for a couple hours. After you do that for at least a full day, you can start to lengthen that time. And so go to 45 minutes. Then the next day go to an hour. And the next day go to 2 hours. Which 2 hours is our standard for any puppy to be inside without having a break. Now, I would not let her surpass 2 hours for the next 2 to 4 weeks. Just don't give her that opportunity to go to the bathroom. Now, as you start to lengthen that time, you're also going to lengthen yourself because you don't want her to become reliant upon you walking her over to the bell. So you lengthen it to 45 minutes, move about 5 feet away, pull up a chair, and just focus on the bells. You're just going to be staring at them. That way she's going to be kind of reading your body language, trying to figure out what you want. She'll walk over, ring the bells. Go to an hour, scoot a little further away, and just keep your focus right there on the bells, but also keeping an eye on her so she doesn't have an opportunity to pee right there close. Hopefully that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, or if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. As well as Haley's actually going to be here to hand off Lila Sunday night, and so if you have any questions, you can ask her. She's awesome. There's also multiple ways to transition the bell. I can help you if for some reason she decides that she doesn't want to ring the bell, but she's done really well with that. But once again, the most important part is 100% supervision. So, the last thing on our list is her leash work. And so we take them on 2 types of walks. The first one is a long leash or an off-leash walk. And so until I am completely confident that she is going to come back when called, I keep her on a leash. And sometimes I'll take her on like a 15, 20 foot leash. Sometimes I'll take her on a 50-foot lead. And when we go on that type of walk, I take lots of treats, and every minute or 2, I'll call her to me. That way she's checking in. I'll give her a treat, let her go again. And that walk is surely just for her to be a dog, to run around, to play, to sniff. And those walks are just great for their mental health. Hunting's great for them. I know you mentioned that maybe she'd be a duck dog, which she loved the quail that I pulled out yesterday. So those walks are so important. The next type of walk that we do is what we call an attention walk. And so that's her walking by my side. She's in a basic heel, constantly checking in, keeping her attention up on me and not being distracted with those things around. And we do have 2 commands there. The first is let's go, just signifying we're moving. The second is easy if she starts to pull. Now, if she starts to pull, it's important that you don't let her pull through. I'll stop, I'll root myself, I'll give her 2 taps on the leash and tell her easy, and she's expected to put that slack back in the leash. If she doesn't, if she just refused, then I would tell her let's go, I'd give her a little bit harder correction, and I'd walk the opposite direction until she regained her composure. And then I'll turn around and walk again. So with that, we're going to run outside and show you that walk. Now when I do these types of walks, usually I like to have them sit like this just to get her attention, and then I'll just tell her, let's go. I am looking for this nice J shape in the leash. Let's go. As well as she should pay attention to me when we're turning. As well as I can turn into her. But she just does great. Just in conclusion, I'd like to reiterate, if you do have any questions, especially over this holiday week, don't hesitate to reach out. I want to make sure that this transition is as smooth as possible, and so we will get back to you. We'll help you out in any way. We've really enjoyed Lila. She is just a sweetheart, and she is just such a doll, and I think your family's going to love her. Please keep in contact. Let us know how she does, and any questions, don't hesitate. And I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. Thanks.